Greetings and welcome to an Orchestra Sample Quickie. Today we have something I did not expect to make a Sample Quickie for. VSL's Epic Orchestra 2.0. VSL provided me with Epic Orchestra 2 for evaluation. They know I wanted to do this video, but have had no influence on it or even knowledge of its content. There is no known direct or indirect affiliation with anyone involved with the product, and everything said in this video is my own personal opinion, not influenced by any third party. Well, that's the first. An intro section to a Sample Quickie. These Sample Quickies are videos of sample libraries I personally like and use and consider to be the best in their field. And I freely admit I did not expect Epic Orchestra 2.0 to make it into that exalted circle. Boy, was I wrong. Epic Orchestra 2.0 comes with your first Vienna Ensemble Pro 7 license, or can be bought on its own. As such, it basically works as a sample of VSL's big libraries, with content taken from those. I was very happy to see that it does a great job at that and provides some stellar content. Epic Orchestra 2.0 is a download via VSL's own download manager, coupled with activating the license to an e-licenser of your choice. As always, the standard e-licenser that comes with Cubase, for example, works just as well as the Vienna key sold by VSL directly. The download manager will offer to install the library into a folder of your choosing, which is very easy and works great. Download size is 28.5 GB. After installation, the installed library is around 73 GB, so during download and installation, about 102 GB free space are needed temporarily. The library runs in VSL's Synchron player, which is a free download from their website, but must be installed separately. Epic Orchestra serves as basically a tryout pack for VSL's Synchron line and what they call synchronized instruments, meaning instruments based on their older Vienna instrument samples that have been adapted for the new Synchron player. It takes a bit of content from their bigger libraries across all orchestral sections, and then some, and makes it available in one library. VSL made the great decision to provide quite full-featured instruments, so they all have their full note range and features, making the whole content quite usable beyond just as a teaser for the bigger stuff. We will go through all included instruments later on, but before we do that, a short overview of the Synchron player is in order, given that this plugin does some things a bit differently than the usual suspects like Contact or Play. Opening up Synchron Player, we are greeted with three main areas. There's a preset browser to the right that lists all installed content divided by presets, which correspond to instruments and patches, which are the individual articulations. The bottom is taken by 4 tabs. The Perform tab has controls that are global for the whole Synchron Player instance. The Control tab lets you set up how to control and automate various parameters. The Edit tab controls the selected slot only, usually one articulation, and the Mix tab does what its name says. It mixes microphone positions, has the reverb, and so on. There's an on-screen keyboard at the bottom, and all the way at the top, volume and performance meters, as well as a few buttons for showing the loops player, setting the UI scaling, showing the assigned key switch details, more detailed performance meters, settings, and hiding the preset browser. Once we load something, here the Vienna Smart Orchestra, the UI populates, with loaded instruments and articulations shown in the middle in what VSL calls a tree view. Not to be confused with a tree view from a file manager, this represents a decision tree, where, as VSL so magnificently puts it, each dimension stands for a musical decision. Fear not, Epic Orchestra 2.0 is much less complex than Vienna Smart Orchestra, but the latter is more impressive for showing off how Synchron Player looks and works. The key switches shown choose their respective instruments, combination types, and articulations, and populate the aforementioned key info video. Settings for CC automation are clear and concise in the Perform and Control tabs, with the Perform tab holding general settings as well as the essential stuff with clear faders. Your own items can be added with the plus icon. The Control tab duplicates that functionality, but has a clearer purpose towards a nitty-gritty setup. You can set start and end points for value ranges, adjust controller curve shapes and types. The Edit tab adjusts the currently selected slot, and its contents vary between instruments. The Mix tab, finally, contains the mixer for all loaded instruments or mic positions if the instrument has multiple, as well as controlling the reverb, which can be switched on or off by clicking on its name, just like any channel can. One special thing about Synchron Player is that it is mono-timbral, just like VSL's Vienna Instruments player. Each instance will react only to one MIDI channel, which is why it makes sense to host it in Vienna Ensemble or Vienna Ensemble Pro. With the Synchron Player overview out of the way, let's go through the content of Epic Orchestra 2.0. The library folder contains 2 subfolders with all the content from the original Epic Orchestra, one with velocity-controlled long articulations, and the other one where all long articulations are controlled by the mod wheel. The same 2 control schemes are also present for all the other content, which is what I will use in this video, because I consider it the better control scheme. The synchronized Epic Orchestra 1 patches are usable as always and work in much the same way as before. One very neat thing in VSL's players is the built-in humanization. So we can see that here on the staccato patch, when I play a note and repeat it, the sampler uses different humanization curves, which you can actually choose from a large number of presets here on that menu. In my opinion, that really gives the samples a lot more natural feel and lets you get away with way less round robins than you have. In the mixer here we can see the reverb, so in this case for all the synchronized Epic Orchestra patches from the old Epic Orchestra, they're using the plate reverb, which has a few settings. If we switch it off completely, the sound is completely dry. For all the long articulations, I will be using a breath controller, so if you see me playing with both hands, that's because I do the CC1 modulation for the velocity layer morphing via breath controller. Since all the quote-unquote old Epic Orchestra 1 patches are taken from VSL's previous dry collections, there's only a single microphone position that is always named, like the section it belongs to, so in this case strings. You can also see that VSL has inserted the default EQ, which you can also edit here. It's switched on by default, but of course you can switch it off or use your own settings. As with all instruments, you always get those instance-specific controllers, like dynamic range, attack, release parameters, built-in filter, the humanizing scale, how much the tuning should differ, and how much the sampler should actually humanize. The control tab here also has a lot of parameters already pre-mapped to sensible CCs. They are the same for every instance and for every instrument, so you can just map those to a MIDI controller of your choice, and have control over a large number of parameters. Of course, as always, you can use the plus sign to add your own ones. As always, all sound you hear is straight out of the box, out of the instrument. There is no post-processing whatsoever done in Vienna Ensemble Pro or Cubase. The first instrument in the synchronized original Epic Orchestra are the appassionata strings. A large string ensemble made up of 20 violins, 10 violas, 12 celli and 10 double basses. The woodwind ensemble has a piccolo, 3 flutes, 3 clarinets, 3 bassoons and a contrabassoon, all mapped as one patch over the whole range of the keyboard. The oboe d'amore is the first instrument that also has legato. The cornet also comes with the basic articulations, but also adds a special portamento legato. The fanfare trumpets really do their name justice, and are great for very exposed passages. The epic horns are maybe the most well-known patch from the original Epic Orchestra. The inclusion of very nice timpani brings a great color to the orchestration, which is curiously absent from a lot of starter libraries. Like in most sample libraries, the rolls are controlled by the mod wheel. Finally, there's some assorted percussion mapped across the keyboard. Again, all the rolls or swells react to the mod wheel. Where Epic Orchestra 2.0 really shines is its new content. Each of those folders has the name of the library the content is from, and clicking on any of the patches therein will show a very nice Shop Now button in bold letters that shines in an electric blue that is the polar opposite of unobtrusive. Thankfully, this not so subtle Pro 2, pretty please with a cherry on top, consider buying the full products, is the only marketing tool VSL has integrated into Epic Orchestra 2.0 to that effect. So we shall speak no more of it and leave it to its merry devices. Getting to the synchron strings, first of all we notice that the background has changed. This is a new feature in Synchron Player, where each instrument has its own background, so it's very easy to tell instruments apart. This instrument derived from Synchron Strings 1 is a whole ensemble mapped across the whole keyboard. Contrary to the instruments from the original Epic Orchestra, all the Synchron series instruments offer multiple microphone positions, which are all included. By default, the room or mix is enabled, but you can choose the main center, surround, high and high surrounds. Let's go back to the soft lyrical vibrato and listen to the different microphone positions. All the Synchron series-based instruments have a standard reverb assigned and enabled. This reverb always has a default preset selected that corresponds to the respective section. Of course, if you do not need it, you can switch it off. Let's listen to the room mix without the reverb. And again with a reverb. The Synchron effects strings are represented by 4 patches. These give you a good idea what the full collection can do, and it's good that VSL chose to include the whole note range. On all the articulations, the keyboard down here will show the available sections or articulations. This is especially useful with the clusters, where you can exactly see what you're playing. Interestingly enough, when you load up the patch for the first time, even though it says Velocity Crossfade Mod Wheel, the crossfade is not actually enabled. So to make sure the mod wheel controls the velocity layers, just click that button down here. The synchronized appassionata strings offer 2 articulations for the violins. A legato with strong vibrato and slides. Passonata strings are 20 violins, so this is a quite large sound. 6 violins from the synchronized chamber strings also offer 2 articulations, legato with vibrato and halftone trills. The synchronized dimension brass too is where things get very interesting. Here we have a Wagner tuba ensemble made up of 4 instruments. These instruments are provided both as all players and for each instrument individually. Each of the instruments has 5 articulations: staccato, portato, sustain, blare and marcato. The all players light patch actually has controls to choose which players should play, or all players, or just 2 of the desks together. In the marcato articulation, a specifically assigned CC, in this case CC3, will switch between sustain and marcato attacks. Synchron Percussion 1 offers a snare drum, a bass drum and a tam-tam. Like with the patches from Synchron Strings and from Synchron Effect Strings, you get the full complement of microphones. As with the effects, the keyboard area down here shows which articulations exactly you're playing. A drum kit taken from Synchron Power Drums rounds up the acoustic instruments. VSL provided the full complement of microphones for this instrument, so you can do the routing to your heart's content. Note that the artificial reverb is switched off by default, but there's a large number of presets defined. Last but not least, VSL included 4 patches from Vienna Smart Spheres, which uses the orchestral samples made by VSL and uses them in interesting and creative ways. Epic Orchestra 2.0 mainly contains more special sections and instruments, less what might be called bread and butter sounds. Few people will use it as their only sample library, simply because there's too much it does not do, but it does some things quite well and that is very usable. Wagner tubas, violin sections of various sizes and other useful instruments. I see the use case in providing additional instruments that expand the instruments you already have. In some circumstances it might even save you from having to buy another product. Of course, a secondary use case definitely is to get familiar with VSL's mode of making and controlling instruments. VSL samples, even their Synchron line, are either bone dry or at least not extremely wet or colored in any way. Therefore they fit well into any sonic space. Since the defaults are quite usable out of the box, a lot of people will be fine with simply loading them as they are. If you need them tweaked, all instruments have their full functionality and you can even build your own presets out of the provided patches. It really is a matter of just loading one Synchron player per included instrument, adjust the mic positions and reverb to taste, or switch the latter off if you prefer your own, route to groups or stems and you're done. All included instruments will be quite useful here and there and can totally stand up to content from other big libraries. No wonder, since they are taken from VSL's own flagship products. There are no real alternatives to Epic Orchestra 2.0. Firstly, given that it is a teaser for VSL's bigger stuff, those large libraries would be the obvious sort of alternative. Secondly, most people will get it with Vienna Ensemble Pro 7, so it is not a separate purchase anyway. As for the actual content, it is so wide in scope that you would need to shop around quite a lot in a ton of different places. By now, I hope you have seen why this video made it from got to make a video because as the VE Pro guy I can't really talk about Vienna Ensemble Pro 7 and leave out the Epic Orchestra 2.0 completely to heck, that is actually a darn good supersized sort of freebie that I will actually keep in my template permanently. While few people will likely buy Epic Orchestra 2.0 on its own, it has grown leaps and bounds over the already pretty neat first incarnation, and to me nails one thing perfectly. The library obviously is intended to drive sales towards the big VSL collections and to serve as an appetizer, but it does this by providing generally useful content to pretty much every user. There's a good starting point for orchestral compositions, but all the instruments are useful even to those who already have a lot of other libraries. Quite deep sampled Wagner tubas are very welcome, and few people will already have those, certainly not at that detail of sampling. The Tama drum kit might just be what the doctor ordered if you are not a drums power user. The strings offer essential articulations and even some great effects, and the percussion is a nice foundation for some basic percussion parts. All of these are at a quality that makes them great as little nuggets in your template to keep way beyond them just serving as a teaser for VSL's bigger libraries. Given that most people will get Epic Orchestra 2.0 with their VE Pro 7 license, this is a stellar deal actually. I hope you liked this overview of Epic Orchestra 2.0. Let me know your feedback in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of new videos. Take care and see you soon.